Welcome everyone to our session on practical implementation of Agile and Scrum by Farooq Zahid. We will be recording this session and we appreciate that during this presentation, if you don't have any questions to ask, please mute yourself and we will be sharing this recording afterwards as well. And after attending this session, you can also earn one Scrum education unit in category F or C as well. So not taking more time, perhaps Farooq can introduce and then we can get started with our session. Over to you, Farooq then.
Thank you very much, guys, and good morning to everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whoever it is, wherever. So let me get started, and the reason for this one is that practical implementation of Agile or Scrum for the product development or some of the projects requirement point of view. So that's the topic that I picked it up, and who am I? This is me. You can see me having 18 plus year of an experience working in the different industries. For the last 10 years, I had an opportunity to work in the Agile space, started with Scrum and all the other activities. Still learning, still working on that one. And every day I learn new things. So I will be sharing those, some of my knowledge and my information with you guys. No, I mean, and I will not spend too much of it time on the traditional thing, but just to give an update that, we all are kind of aware of it, what the traditional project management looks like. But before going to get in more details of these thing, I just wanted to put some disclaimers here that some of the screenshots I took it from Google, some of the might be having some existing software, because the ultimate purpose of my presentation is to give you all the new folks or the one who are already have practicing these activities to understand it, that how practically on a daily basis we can implement our Scrum methodologies specifically. And as we all know that there are a lot of other frameworks under the umbrella of Agile, but our today's focus will be purely on the the Scrum point of view. So coming back to this slide, the traditional project management, as we know, we deal with so many different areas of some managed backup, hardware kind of a things, change management. We deal with all these kind of an activities, and there's a certain pattern of a project management where we go through that one from the traditional project point of view. So, and then there is a kind of a software development, right? So we all face that there are different kinds of software development, and a few of the areas which you can see are listed here. And while implementing the Scrum in any of these development project is a fun, by the way. Remember, there is always room for making some changes in Scrum approach, but keep your focus on end product. Scrum in itself consists of just a number of ceremonies, right? But ultimate goal is to delivering the end product in an iterative model. So that's some of the things that we all face or we all are involved into it. There's another thing that we have a software development, but also while implementing Scrum, there is other development projects also there. I mean, we have to go back and sometime we have to update the business processes for the business intake, like how the input from the business will be flowing to us, and then that intake in the form of requirements, how we will have to take that at the organization level and convert them into a particular product in the form of a number of projects, and then we follow the Scrum. So and then sometime we have to go back and define the processes, because sometime while implementing the Scrum, we have observed that there is a misalignment between the business intake and the execution of the Scrum activities. So then we have to figure it out, that what is the roadblock, and try to help the organization to remove those roadblocks. So this is also one of the area where you can implement Scrum in general too. A similar thing we see in our daily life, that sometimes we have folks on this call, or probably some of the folks who are in the practical life want to implement, they are doing a small web development or mobile development, and they think, what, how can we transfer, how can we convert these by following a Scrum approach? Okay, not I'm saying in agile approach. Agile is a bigger umbrella, but under that agile, if we want to go and follow the scrum approach, how would that work? So we will talk on this one. Now, coming back to the original point, and before we talk about this practical implementation of agile, and I specifically said scrum model for product and projects development. So the reason I'm saying that one is that we all know that the agile is being used for building any kind of a different kind of a products, and then under that products sometimes we have to take these things in the form of a small project. When we go into the real time projects or real time environment, we see that some of the scrum master are being assigned as a scrum master to start working on the individual project. That project can be a software development, a web service development, or a migration project. We call it out as a project. Okay, so just to not to confuse between sometimes people get stuck with it, like, oh, why is it not a product and is a project? So we know that one, but today we are talking about all the implementation. We are talking about the real-time problems and real-time things and real-time terms that we are using in the at the different organization level. Okay, and remember, when we conduct the Scrum ceremonies, is not actually a Scrum. What really means is, are we able to deliver a potentially resaleable product at the end of every sprint or not? Ceremonies are just Scrum processes that would help us get there, but not Scrum in itself. So coming back to the, before we go and we jump on the next slide, I wanted to make sure to take a minute from your time and let you know that we have put together a one idea board. You already have seen that one. I have shared that one in the meetup, and also I think this one is available in our WebEx. And the purpose of this one is to please provide your feedback. Try to learn things, like try to give us your feedback that how we can improve upon it. Plus, if you have any questions, and we will try to make it more interactive. I'm trying my level best to make it more interactive, because we have a 1 hour of a time frame, so we have to cover a lot of other things. But if you have any questions that you really need to get answered, please try to add those questions, and at the end we will see how much time allows. Otherwise, I can also answer those one offline to you guys. Okay, so please make use of this one and try to get your questions on the board. Okay, so coming back to the traditional Scrum Lifecycle, you all might be aware of it, that how it works, and you all have an idea what is product backlog, how the planning thing can work, and how we can, after the planning, we run the execution. We do the execution of the that particular sprint, whatever the stories we have committed, and then after the that stories which are being committed, we go for a daily stand up to talk about it, and then at the end of the sprint, the potential is that there should be some sort of a shippable product is available. In real time, honestly, that's not the case for every single organization. That probably some of the folks around the world are thinking that, you know, every single sprint we are going and we are delivering something in the production. I don't think so. I've been working from last 10 years with so many big clients. Mostly these are the true things. I'm not saying those are not the true things, but these are the true things for probably an Amazon, from a Google or Facebook, or some of the big companies for sure. But all the other companies that I worked with does not push the things at the end of every sprint towards the production. But do we have to always take that leverage and say, okay, because they are not doing it, we will be not doing it? I'm not encouraging that, but I'm just letting you know, because the ultimate goal of today's is to talk about some of the myths and some of the clarities, that where we can talk or we can make the alteration or small changes in our thoughts and our understanding to really start building the stuff in a practical way. So the reality is most of the organizations are not shipping the product at the end of every sprint, but there's a concept of release that I'll touch upon later on. Now, the second thing that most probably some of the folks on the call and even myself is that, okay, by the way, we know Scrum. I mean, we understand this picture, but you know what, as a practical person, I don't know where the product backlog should have to go. What is that sprint backlog should look like Do we have any tool to be used for that one? And when we are executing on a daily basis, the daily stand-ups and all these kind of thing, where we have to look for it, what exactly will give us the metrics that, okay, if the team is progressing or not, what is that burn down charts, where actually they are. So these are some of the questions, right? I mean, we all have in our minds, and definitely those are the very valid questions. So just to reiterate, I tried to put together that, okay, and I'm taking just JIRA as an example. There are so many other tools available, but I'm just giving an example, one standard example of a JIRA Confluence which is being used, and I try to paste them in the appropriate area where this will help you, that what are the areas where we can actually start using JIRA in order to get our business input, story refinement, product backlog, sprint backlog, then how on a daily basis we can talk about it. But I just wanted to give you a sort of thinking on that one. And don't forget about the Agile Manifesto that I will be talking later in the next slide. Okay, and let me take you to the next slide. Okay, so this is a sort of a model. While thinking through and going through so many other activities, I thought of building something my own, which should be more easy to follow, which is more easy to give an thought process. That, okay, one second. Okay, yeah. So this one-page model, we will be trying to fill that in, and I will show you. But there are the areas that I try to put together everything on a single page for anybody who is on the are new onto this journey and is trying to making sure that, okay, what comes after this one, what is before this one, how release management work, what we have to do after the release, when I have to set up the JIRA board, when I have to start talking about the team management and all that one. So I try to put together everything in the one single page. So in that way you can see. But now the question is, what are these are all the areas, like question mark is there's some of the questions are small, some of the questions are big. Okay, for example, if we take it from what is vision and mission means to you, what is manifesto, Agile Manifesto, how we have to build this team thing, what is release management, how under the release management, what is it being expected as a scrum master to have it ready for us so we can get ourselves roll into the sprint 0 or sprint 1, what exactly they look like. And once we are done with these activities, how can I do my sprint planning? uh, Give me some templates, or show me something which can help me to actually visualize, understand it, that, okay, this is what you meant by a sprint backlog, this is what you meant by a task board, this is what you meant by an impediments or burn down chart. So we'll talk on that one, and I have a slides right after this one which will help you to understand it. So let's move on to the next. Now, I thought of that rather than we just talk about as an overall Scrum, Agile, and there's a lot of knowledge available. There's a lot of right and wrong answers available on the internet. There's millions of YouTube's, videos are available. Probably millions of blogs are available. What to follow, where to start. So when I do some training, some sort of sharing with my teams and all that one, what I have observed is it's always easy for the folks to correlate the things when we start taking some starting point or some point to correlate the things. Like, for example, I picked it up one example of it, that, okay, what if we are building today, and today's session we will try in 1 hour, although it's very difficult to do it, but we will try to build a one small system where we are saying we are building a medical system. Okay, and by the way, this medical system is just the mock-up. Okay, so don't take it that actually it's being built. Actually it is being built, but I just took it that as a way to explain it. Now, for example, if we are trying to build a software development and we come to know that once, and we are saying that, okay, we have a medical system where we want to have a patient record, and then we would like to have a doctor's front end record, and then we would like to build a admin front end. So it's a purely software development, right? Okay, let's see what we have it now. So when we said, like, okay, this is the vision, now I'm wearing the hat of a product owner. Like, there's one of the key role as a product owner. And what the product owner is responsible for, the product owner is a person who is actually responsible for a complete vision of the product. Like for example, if we are building a medical software and I'm saying as a, anybody has any questions? Okay, sorry. So I'm saying that as a product owner, I would like to build a complete software, right? Or an app which will be able to help doctors to, for example, recording all the data about the patients and also being able to add their medical records into it and financial records for that particular patient, whoever is the patient. Now, we are saying this will be a web-based product. Now, this is a vision of a product owner, that this will be a web-based product. Which will be really, we are saying is hosted on an Amazon cloud and will be accessible through our browser. And we are specifying, and there's a reason I put this one. We want to specify that this will be only accessible through Chrome and Firefox and also through iOS apps. Okay. Now, this is when I say this one, this is a vision in my mind. Then the point is, why not Internet Explorer? And what about Android and Windows? That's exactly I want to let you know. As a product owner, you should be clear on your requirements in your mind that, okay, if this thing is going on, this is the existing platform my organization supports. So I will not be going to support Internet Explorer, Android and Windows, because that's not where my customers are. Like for example, one of my financial bank was there and I was building some product and they said, we don't support this particular application which was for an organization to the Internet Explorer, but we are only focused on Chrome and Firefox only. So that's the vision, because there's a lot more work probably from the Internet Explorer point of view. So just to touch upon it, to give you a thought that when we as a Scrum Master communicate, coordinate with our product owner, we have to also educate them, because it's not like our product owners are always well educated and they know what to do. They're always coming back with a bunch of lists. So we are the one as a Scrum Master to get a proper understanding what exactly we will be working upon it. We means as a team, and what are the areas where we have to push back, on the positive note. Push back in a sense, like if the overall sense is that they only support Chrome and Firefox, then if somebody comes back and say, okay, I was running this thing into the Internet Explorer and this product is not working, we should have to not say, oh, this is a bug. Then this is not a bug, because this was not a part of something in the initial vision of the product. Okay, and we'll talk more on this one. So let me try to actually also share with you the overall product now, because I'm sure that you might all be okay. Can you guys see my screen for a different product thing?
No, it's still loading, I think.
Okay, let's see. If it doesn't, let me know, because it is very important that
could you please try sharing it again, Farooq?
Sure. How about now?
Perfect. It looks, yeah, it's shareable. Thank you.
Perfect. So as we said that this will be a more of a practical implementation. So I thought of building a complete software. I'll show you the blueprints of actual thing, that how in the requirement session, while working with a product owner, not as a Scrum Master, just to be very clear. For example, the technical teams was there, business analysts were there, and the product owner was there. And they had a vision of this particular medical software that they are trying to build in it. And these are the different epics involved in it. I'm calling it as an epics, and I'll explain it more to you guys. And then we said, okay, what if we have, and let me make it a little bigger so you can see it more better way. Okay, so see, if you can see this one, I'm trying to give you some version of it, that how this is being developed as a high level. As a product owner, I was working with a product owner to start building what exactly his product should be looked like. So he said, I want to build a medical software. I want to have some main page, some customer profile, some health related stuff, and then something related to our wizards on thing. Okay, good. Then we went into the little more details and we said, what on the main page? He said, I would like to have a kind of a first page, which we called it as a landing page. There should be a login screen. Okay, good. So these are the sessions which had happen initially to get a vision of the product. Once the vision of the product is there, we can always come back and refine the things while we are running other sprints. Okay, so let's stay focused on the product right now, and then we will come and I'll answer your questions, or I'll try to correlate those things, that how the release will be built, how these sprints will be developed, how the things will go into the Jira or a Confluence, and then how the execution will happen. I'll show you that. I'll try my level best to show you. Now, for example, if somebody say, oh, by the way, what is in the landing page? I'm saying, oh, the guy wants to have a landing page with, for example, these 3 different sub areas. That's good to know. Perfect. Okay. Now I can engage at this level. Actually, this is a job of a product owner, but mostly in the practical world, what I have seen is that there are some business analysts involved in it. Sometimes the technical analysts are involved in it, which are working together with the product owner to start writing the user stories. And I'm sure you guys are kind of familiar with the user stories. I'm not going into the detail of, because that in itself is a complete session where you can start thinking what the user stories are, how to build the user story, what is an acceptance criteria, how to build the testing strategy aligned to that one. We'll be having some touch upon it, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. Now on this one, I'm just going to show you, so you can start seeing it, that I am building a complete vision of a product before working on it. And again, guys, I'm not saying that you have to have all this thing, get it done before you start your I'm calling it as a project or your iteration, but it is always good to have some highlights available so you can actually start defining or sub-defining the versions of it. For example, we tried to register a new user, and we were not knowing like what exactly needs to be get it done. So let's start our own sprint, first sprint, for example, and during that first sprint, we might be talking about this one, because if you can see, I put a number 2, priority 2. This is not a top priority. This is something without which we can live for a 1 sprint or 2 sprint. And that again is not the job of a Scrum Master. This is job of more of a product owner. But as you guys have to understand it, being more effective Scrum Master as a servant leader, you have to have a good understanding. I'm not saying that you should be very expert in it, but if you better have to gain this sort of a knowledge and understanding what product is, how the product should look like, what the product vision should be, then it is easy for you to roll that down into the form of a release planning, in the form of a sprints, in the form of a sprints backlog. And so these are the things. Now, coming back to the point, so you can see, I mean, if you can explore this one, you will see I have built a complete bunch of, a complete vision of this whole product. Oh my gosh, this is a 1 page, and I'm a very 1-pager guy. I try to build everything on a 1 page. So what I did is I tried to squeeze in main page and a customer profile with all the possible versions of it. What should be the, what should be the sections involved in it, and what these sections will be having details related to it. So according to that one, my focus is for the next 3 months, probably it's a first release for me, consists of 5 or 6 sprints. I would like to build these things based on my evaluating what current team I have it. Like, I have 5 developers, 2 QA guys, 2 BAs are available, 1 release guy is along with me. So far, this is what now is a kind of a vision building, that we build a complete vision of it, what exactly we will be working on for the next 3 months. Okay. Then I wanted to, and we will come back to this one. You can see I just put it together. Number 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the priorities. These are the priorities that without, this is landing page. If we don't have a landing page, we might not be able to display or demo something related to register a new user. So I prioritize while wearing my product owner hat, and I said, oh, okay, you know what? This particular thing needs to go first. So I want to take this as a top priority, this should be part of my first sprint. Then we will talk to and when we come to the sprint planning and sprint refinement, I'll explain it to you what is being expected in that particular area. Okay. Now, so coming back to my presentation, how we are doing so far, guys? Are we following up too much? Let me know.
Going really great.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your feedback. Okay, now can you see my presentation now, or?
We can see your cursor, but not the presentation.
Not the presentation. Okay, I think there's I have to probably share my whole screen, then it will hear you. Let's see. Can you please confirm now?
Yes, we can see your pink notes and some reminder for you to attend your daily stand-up.
Sorry, I shared the wrong screen then. Main screen. This. Okay. Is it good now?
Yes, we see the presentation. Yeah,
Perfect.
but it's not in the presentation mode.
Yeah, that I'm gonna do that right now. Okay. Now, while having all this discussion, can you see my presentation mode now, guys?
Perfect.
Now the thing is that you have seen that I'm, and again, don't take me wrong, I'm a product owner, but on the other end, as a senior scrum master or a person who do have an understanding how the product should be formed, I'm helping. And most of the organization, when we walk in as a consultant or as a person, we figure it out. The people don't have their understanding what exactly role they will be involved in, what is the expectation. So we try to leverage few things, try to engage them, and as you know, some of the coaches are involved in it, and I have been into that role as well. So we try to help them out anyway. So you can see release 1, release 2, release 3, release 4. So this is what I'm putting an expectation that what exactly I'm building in a release 1. So my focus should stay on a release 1, and release 1 contains what I was sharing with you guys. That contains a main page, and then also that contains a complete customer profile details. Okay, so now kind of, you know, the stage is set. Now we know, okay, let's move on to the next. And this is what I was just sharing with you guys, right? And I just tried to put together a screenshot for you now. Okay, so we will be more focused on main page and customer profile, because these are the next 6 weeks of a sprints that we will be working upon it. Okay, wonderful. That's good to know. Now, in that particular area, now our focus should be, we have to start working on a backlog refinement. We have to start defining an epics. We have to start working with the business, including, when I'm saying business, including product owner and the BAs, depends on the organization. Because guys, I'm not talking the bookish thing, okay? I'm talking the real life projects. And I mean, based on the 10, 12 different clients that I worked with it. So sometimes things don't match with the book things, because we says, oh, product owner is the one book says that is only supposed to be writing the user story, but that's not the true case. Because most of the organization I have seen, as far as I live in Chicago, by the way, in Chicagoland area, or even in New York, some of the clients that I worked with it, the product owner is too busy, or or the person who is very senior and is being on multiple projects. So the point is that there is a role which is called as a business analyst, or there is a role which we actually is a story author, who's responsible to actually start writing the stories with the help of a product owner. Anyway, so we have to write the stories, and then we have to prioritize the things for the next 5 sprints. And this 5 sprint is not like, you know, it's some a figure from my end. It is just, I'm saying, to be more focused for next 5 weeks, means like almost 2.5 or 3 months. So you are focused 5 to 6 sprints is the general release. So you have to deliver something at the end of a 6 weeks. Some of my personal project, when I was and I'm by passion, I also have some entrepreneurial things that I keep doing that from the beginning. Just to give you a quick things on that one, is that I used to run a weekly sprint to see, as a web development, as a app development, that what is an outcome of it. And I have delivered some good projects based on that too. Anyway, those are the things that you can use in your practical life if you are doing, but this is from the more of an enterprise level point of view. So now the thing is that we have to be working on a backlog refinement. What is the backlog refinement? Now you have a little bit of version and understanding that, okay, how my main page should look like, how should my customer profile should be, what are the different components or section of those pages will be, how those so these are the all refinements that you have to do it. And then, as I said, there are multiple tools that you have to use. One of the tool is JIRA, very important. AHA is another one. Monday is there. Mingle is there. I used all of them, so I'm just trying to share with you guys. Let's move on. Okay, let's move on. Now, here is the more detailed blueprints of it. As I said, and this is, oh, by the way, this tool is a very good tool. If any one of is interested to start using this one, I used it, you know, from last 5 5 to 6 years, and I used it very helpful in doing my brainstorming and my vision and roadmap defining, whatever you want it. Okay, but this is a tool which is called as Xmind. You have this tool available free of cost online, and if you want a professional version of it, which is very fancy version, you have to pay about $90 or $80 per year. So anyway, just a recommendation on the side if somebody's interested to see what exactly this tool is. This is an Xmind tool. I highly recommend if you are more of a person like me who wants to put together everything together. And by the way, a few of my complete softwares that I have built as a project or as a product, I tried to build a complete blueprints of that one in this particular format with the fancy pictures, and then we by using the plotters and all that, when we took the printout of those ones and we put it that on a big wall, so anybody has a more understanding. For example, if you have a technical discussion and somebody's saying, and I'm going to point it out on this landing page or on this register a new user, when you click on this one or you are doing this one, upon request refill RX, we have a problem. So see, in this one page, you have a more better understanding of talking about those things, right? Rather than talking something and there is no visual impact of it. So just another version of it. Anyway, I was just sharing with you guys the Xmind, that how that works. Now moving on to the next one. Look at
Farooq,
this.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, what do you recommend? How much detail we should put on this this visualization?
Perfect. Good question. So we are not going to put too much details. This is what I have already built for this particular session purpose. But overall, you have to start with the high level thing. So at least you understand what epics should look like, and under that epic, what should be the high level stories. If it is a functional story, if it is a technical story, if it is an integration story, and we'll talk about that one. Okay, so and then this is a living document. This is not like a one-day thing that you will be done with it. It's a living document. This document will be keep updating, and at the end, once you are done with your delivery of the complete software, you might see a beautiful complete blueprint of the whole software or whatever that activity was. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it helped.
Thank you. Perfect. Now you can see, now I'm trying to make more visualization. So all of those friends who are saying, oh, you know what, I see this structure of it, like it's a blueprint, but you know what, I'm trying to visualize it, how it will look like in the real world. Here you go. You can see, here it is. And then all of a sudden, I'm bringing vision to the value. I'm just trying to help you out. I might have to involve my UI guy, and I say, you know what, I want you to help me out in building this thing so people can start understanding, and I'll come back to you. Why is it very helpful? Here you go. Okay, now I can see that how the health area or a visit or messaging should look like, what will be the option should as a drop down, how the page should look like, what are the different sections that you were talking about. Now, if I have a requirement and if I have this visual concept available, it is more easy for my development team to start thinking about it while going for a sprint planning. Oh, I know how this drop down should look like. What technology, for example, they are using a Java for that particular thing. So they know what class needs to be called in, what methods needs to be get it done. I mean, on their end. And on the same side, as a technical guy or as an architect guy, as a database guy, you also want to make sure, oh, okay, if I have to have this medical tool, which has probably some other dependencies on it, this is the way I have to start structuring my database. And then testing guy, who are the favorite of mine, they need to start understanding, okay, if this will look like that way, first of all, will this fit in my browser? Will this fit in my apps on my mobile phone? Will that integrate? How this integration will work? What if I click on this one? How this thing will show up? What if I click on Document Center? Am I expecting to have a new screen popping up? So these kind of things will help you to start visualizing an actual product. Okay, guys. So let's move on. And this is another version of it that I'm trying to show you that, okay, this is the main page, right? This is the main page. This is welcome. Oh, like, let's go back. I said there should be a main page, which should have a landing page, which should have some sort of these options available. There's a login screen. And then all of a sudden, I can visualize it. When I start visualizing it, it makes more sense to me, right? So now I can see, oh, this is how things will work out. Wonderful. Okay, now I know what to do. Coming back to the point, here is now I'm more focused, more specified on one health related menu, and here are all the requirements. So let me take a pause. This is a one, this my health record is a one epic for me. Under that epic, probably I have a sub epics. If you not a sub epics, I mean, we can have more epics, but what I'm saying is these are kind of a high level stories based on, I'm saying these are my stories. And on these stories, I have one story which is a test result. And under the test result, when I click on the test result, I'll be having a test result page, a web page, and that page will contain all these information. Let's see. Now I'm visualizing as a developer. I'm trying to start understanding how should it look like. As a tester, I'm setting some things on my end. Okay, how would I be writing my test strategy and my test cases in order to convert these, or in order to test these things once they are developed. And by the way, we will talk more on that one. Your development, your unit testing, and your testing for a committed stories within the sprint should have to end at within the same sprint. Because why? Because that's a definition of done. And I'll show you what is definition of done. Here you go. Can you see that one? I was just visualizing, I was thinking, and then if I have a UI available, that helps me to understand it, to correlate it, what the test result page should look like, what should be the options available, and blah, blah, blah. And then I try to build this one. And again, guys, this is what I'm trying to get you a vision of it, okay? Don't think like this is how actual world works. I'm just trying to give you a feelings and understanding how you can make things more progressive, and how you can help the teams all over the your area, that how these different kind of things can work out. Okay, now again we came back to that one page of our I called it, I built this one and I shared on LinkedIn also as a block change, block by block we are changing, we are adopting. So it's an adaptability on as a scrum master and as a team, where we are trying to help them how to adopt. Now let's see, let me get back to the scrum area. While we have a product, we have a little bit more understanding. Now the point is that what we have from the ceremonies we are covering. Okay, what should the team look like? So our team should have a product owner. Yes, absolutely, we should have to have a team. I put together here a scrum team. When I'm saying scrum team, we always call it as a team. We don't call BAs or QAs or we say they're all one part of the team. But some of the organization does call them, an individual name, which is fine. There is nothing harm in it. So what we are saying is, as a team, there are product owners, there are scrum team, and there's a release manager. Some of the organization does have a release manager, some of the team doesn't. Organization doesn't have it, but that's okay. That's not a discussion right now. Now the thing is that here's my team. And I incorporated the team. I identified what my team should look like. Then another thing is that okay, how the environment set up. What are the environments where the things that you were talking about, you were explaining to us, where these environments should have to, these things should have to go and actually start building, where the testing team will be testing those developed code, where the end user will be having an option to go and start looking into these softwares. So these are all the different kind of environment, right? Which should be get ready, or at least start getting into it. Now, another thing is, and I'm just sharing JIRA, but I'm not advocating that you have to go through a JIRA. This is just a one tool that, as an example, I put together, that we would like to have a JIRA board setup, right? There should be a, can you please put yourself in on mute if you're not talking? There's a background noise, please. Thank you. Now, when we say that JIRA board setup, so that belongs at, okay, here's a project that we would like to build, okay, and there could be a possibility this is a big software development, a big product, and probably we will be having 3 or 4 parallel teams will be working on building these things, and that's another scaled concept that you will see in the next month probably. But I'm just trying to give you a thought and thinking about it. And then we have to identify how the epic and user stories are. Now when I'm saying epic and user stories, it is easy for you to correlate that, right? Now here is probably my one epic, my health record. Under that health record, these are my stories. And then under these stories, I might have a subtasks, okay, and all these kind of things. Now that makes more sense to you to understand it, to visualize it, that how the epic should look like. And epic is actually a term, kind of a folder in a layman language, a folder where you have to start putting together your user stories. Definitely there's a lot of other discussions about the epic, because that's being used by the business also. Some of the organization take that epic at a different level to understand it, but I mean, we are not getting into that discussion. So far we have done team concept, and we have a team build. We know that we have a developers, we have a QAs, we have a BAs, we have a scrum master. Then we know we have to have our environments available. At least our dev and test should be there, so we can get started. We have to have some kind of a tool. JIRA is just I'm recommending. And then we have to start defining as epic and user stories. Then the important thing is that I was talking earlier. Now things are, I think so, I might be wrong, that you can correlate when I was talking about this release thing, what I meant. Now this is what I meant. When I say release one, what does I mean? This is the release one. In the release one, we would like to deliver what? Main page and a customer profile. Oh, okay. Now you can visualize it. What I meant for that one is, okay, so you mean we have to stay focused on these two things? Yes, because that's the ultimate goal. As I said in my initial slides, Scrum is an approach, is a bunch of ceremonies, but the ultimate goal is delivery of the product or delivery of the release. Excuse me. So the thing is that once you have that vision clear, because we are the one as a team who help the product owner or the business to convert their vision in the form of a value. There's a process involved, there's a journey involved from the vision to the value. Values for the customer, right? So we as a Scrum Master help, facilitate, and should be kind of more manageable in our own self to understand it, what comes after what. Once we have that clarity, then it is more easy to smoothly run the things. By the way, it's not smooth all the time. It is always a bumpy ride, but eventually if we have some structured approach where we can start saying, okay, do I have this thing done? Do I have this thing ready, available? Then it is more easy for us to make a more progress. Okay. Now coming to the release planning, let me see. And you have observed one thing, when I showed you this whole thing in the very beginning, it was filled with nothing, right? There's a question marks. Do you know that? There's all question marks. Now we have started seeing that these questions are going away. We see the vision and value converted in the form of like, okay, what exactly was the vision of this product? We have seen our team showed up, right? We have identified the environments. Now we see what the release should look like, at least high level, right? So, and then we have seen that there's a definition of done came in. So I'll talk on this one. Now, when we are here in the release planning, we have a vision what we will be doing in the next 5 weeks. Again, guys, high level. We are not saying that we have to have all the requirements ready. Then what is the purpose of Agile and Scrum? We want to get things done parallelly, but at least some vision to start with it. Okay. I used one of the approach which I called it as a Scrum calendar, sprint calendar. Sprint calendar is nothing but just a basic understanding what we will be doing in the next 2 weeks and then weeks after that one. So I can put the different meetings like a demo meeting, retrospective, planning meeting on their calendar. So they are not occupied, because we deal with on a daily basis some of the shared resources. They are not only dedicated to my particular product or a project. They are more involved in multiple projects, 40% on this project, 40% on other projects. So we have to start making sure that as a good Scrum Master in a practical world, we should facilitate them, help them, so they know what is coming up so they can work accordingly. There's a concept of sprint zero. Some of the people don't like the concept of sprint zero, or they say there is no sprint zero. And I totally agree to that one. That's okay. But as I said, we are not here to prove right and wrong some of the myths. We are here to start learning, because we are still in the crawling and learning form. We are not on the running and flying phase of it. So doesn't matter. Some of the people can use the term or the word sprint zero, and some of them don't, but that's okay. Ultimately, what is sprint zero? As an overall high level, the sprint zero is where we would like to actually figure out most of these things. what will be my team, what will be their availability, what environments I'll be going to work into it. Do I have an access to all these environments? Do my developer has an access, or my QA has an access to it? Do we need to build some staging data for that one? Do we have to work on this one? What sort of change control, or snow tickets we have to open in order to get an access? So all of these activities, we try to get it resolved, or at least reach to the point that where we go and summarize it in the sprint 0. And based on the release planning, we can have a sprint 1 and 2 plan. Now, one of the recommendation is that when you are going for a sprint planning on a sprint 1, don't think that you should be only having a stories ready for sprint 1. As a good Scrum Master, you should have to work with the product owner to make sure at least you have 2 week of his sprint stories are always available. Sometimes it is challenging, but the thing is that, and plus you have to know how much is your team capacity, right? So team capacity, building a team capacity, and I'll okay, you know what? Okay, let's go back. Okay, so stay for a minute, okay, because I have other slides. So just stay here. Now, Agile Manifesto. Before we go for a team capacity and all that, I want you to understand the Agile Manifesto and remember this always. It is an individual and interaction, our processes and tool. You guys see that one. Working products, our comprehensive documentation. We are not too much focus on the documentation, but we are trying to build some working products as a demo, like exactly what I'm doing right now. Rather than showing you multiple slides with the multiple words in it, I'm just trying. I'm not saying I'm fully successful, but at least I'm trying my level best to show you, okay, what the working product should look like. Then you have to collaborate, right? Rather than, contracting and all that, and you all are aware of it. And responding to change over following a plan. This is a very important thing. Responding to a change. That's why we are different as an Agile, as a Scrum point of view, that we respond to the change. But we are not responding to the change on a daily basis, that every single day morning, the product owner shows up and says, okay, you know what, whatever you were doing yesterday, just forget it, and let's start beginning from the scratch. No, that's not what we meant by a change. That's why we have a release plan, we have a sprint planning. During the sprint planning, we do the commitment. Commitment does mean that we are going to delivering something at the end of these 2 weeks, right? So these are the things. But if during that one, if the priority gets changed, then we have a concept of negotiation. We say, oh, we understand you have this thing more important than, for example, if we are building the health thing and all of a sudden the guy showed up and he said, I have a demo with a end client and I want to show them the login screen, which we thought will be a sprint second thing. But you know what? Unfortunately, we have to take care of that one right now. So I'm saying, okay, we'll talk and in the team, we will negotiate and we'll get back to him and say, you know what? This is the change we can definitely get in because we have 4 or 5 days left, but we might not be able to build that landing page slider for you. So we probably will have to take this one in and we have to drop that off. So are you okay with that? So these are kind of a negotiation. Now, the second thing is, for example, and I just put together, a team for you guys. So there's a Lisa who's a product owner. I'm calling myself, self-proclaimed. Sometimes you show off a little bit, agile coach. you have a release manager, Julia. We have a Victor who's our Scrum Master, and then you see some happy faces for Dev, Q, and Scrum Masters and BAs. And then I try to listed some of the and you guys can go back in the later on to read through this one. Now, while we have a team available, now the thing is that in this particular slide, you see some more things got added. You see some of the areas where I added some of the tools. This is a JIRA tool and this is a Confluence tool. This is a Power Apps. And I'll talk about that one. So these are the areas where you can actually document these things or record those things within JIRA or in a Confluence or using Power Apps, okay? Now, we were talking, last thing was about the release planning, and as we said, we wanted to have a sprint 1, 2, and all those things get ready. Good. Now we have a product owner, we have a Scrum Master, we have a release manager. Now we are all ready, right? We are done. We are out of sprint 0. We have our team defined. We have at least our high level backlog available with at least like 15, 20 stories. And based on those stories, based on that, I know how much is my capacity of delivering it. So let's go for a planning, okay? So before we go for a planning, I also try to list down some of the common activities. Again, guys, I'm not sharing any checklist with you. I'm not trying to ask you to go for a checklist, but for all my those friends who are trying to get on this track and trying to see, okay, where to start with it. That's why I try to help them out in understanding what is the usually sprint zero activities. You probably, if your team is too new, you have to go for a team training, you have to refine the backlog, you have to create a release plan, you have to refine design an architectural framework, and I'll talk about that one. You have to conduct some activities for a release, you have to set up some meeting calendars, you have to do a JIRA board setup. If CI/CD, we'll talk on this one, is continuous improvement or continuous integration and continuous delivery or development or deployment. These are all the things which, this is probably a mature team point of view. And then you have a finalization of DOR and DOD. DOR is definition of ready and definition of done. As I was talking earlier, when we are going, we believe in this manifesto, responding to change over following a plan. But we also believe in this thing that if we have to have a definition of done, what is definition of done? When we want to go into the sprint, we are locking ourselves to deliver something at the end of 2 sprint. That can be only possible, that journey is only possible if we have at least right amount of stories available. We not only develop the story, but we also do the unit testing, we also do the testing. So that is a kind of a shippable product available. That is a kind of a shippable product available. One of the question was, where we have to do the testing? So my friend, testing by the book should have to be happened within the sprint. That's the definition of done, that we have to acknowledge at the start of the sprint. When we do the planning, we get the negotiation, we get the agreement by the whole team, which is our team. This is our team, right? We get the team agreement that, okay, we will reach to this definition of done. Might be a question pop-ups in your mind. Where is this definition of done, and all this needs to be documented? Depends on every organization. Some of the organizations I have seen and I worked with them, they actually write down the definition of done, our team agreement, and they paste it in their own cubes or on their team level, whatever they are working on. And if they are remote distributed Scrum they are following, then even that is available on their along with their Confluence board, where you can display that one. So anyway, coming back to the next, so these are the activities that you can use for a sprint zero. Then, as I said, let's move on to, now we have seen, now you can see sprint goals are identified, team capacities, and we know what the team capacity is. Now we have identified the definition of done, and I just listed some high level. Unit test passed, code reviewed, acceptance criteria, AC means acceptance criteria met, and functional test passed. This means that when all of my stories will go through the life cycle of this one, it means I am done with my stories. Means those stories are ready for demo, those stories are ready for a end product, as an end product. Let me take a pause and let me ask you, are you guys following? I'm going too fast, please. And I'm not reading any messages because I'm focused on this one. Okay.
Going well.
Sure, perfect. Thank you, guys. Now while we talked about it, and we understand what product is and how the definition of done is, now our next activity is, and we are in the sprint planning session, that we would like to go for a sprint backlog. When I'm saying a sprint backlog, let me see. Okay, okay, I have also listed what needs to go in a sprint. Okay, sprint backlog does require that once we are committing the stories, once we are done with the sprint goal, once we are done with the definition of done, we have to push the stories from our backlog to our sprint backlog. Okay, and for all of those who might be wanted to see how this thing looks like in JIRA, let me see if I have that available. I think I have. Okay, probably give me just 1 second, guys. Okay, can you guys see my screen with the JIRA?
Yes.
Perfect. So this is what the backlog looked like, right? And I mean, this is a probably not a good backlog, but yeah, this is a sprint one. Stories are there. we have a sprint 2. Here's the backlog. I mean, I don't have a stories here, but the thing is that looks like this is a backlog where we will be going to have a 50 or 60 or 20 or 30 stories. And then once we are done with the planning of sprint 1, I pushed some of the stories into it, and then these stories are assigned to the different people, and you can see to do, in progress, and done stages are there. I mean, there's a lot more. We are not going into it. You can always change the flow of this one or the workflow of this thing, but that's a different story. So just wanted to give a quick glance of how the JIRA looks like, and you can also create a multiple kind of a project. Some of friends has asked me that can we use the Scrum methodology for any other kind of a project. It could be a HR project, or it could be other things. Yes, you can. There's a different boards available. You can see Kanban board. There's a different framework, not a Scrum, I'm saying, but JIRA can be used for all these different kinds of, even for the task management, even for the Kanban. Kanban we usually see is mostly being used by the business in order to prioritize things and making sure, and even project management, process management. So these are all the flavors available. You have to explore that one. I'm not, today is not the topic. We just move back to it, but just wanted to give you a little bit details on that one. Okay, now coming back to the point. So when we say we have a sprint backlog, we have a user stories moved, then under the user story, and by the way, we have a multiple kind of user stories, right? You guys know that one. We have a functional stories, we have a technical stories, we have an integration stories, we have a foundation stories, right? So that depends on the priority of it. For example, if I'm building a medical software, and I'm sorry guys, I'm just trying to keep check on the time. Okay, perfect. So the thing is that we wanted to make sure that these user stories are being accommodated or being taken in as a sprint, within the sprint, based on the priority by the business, but also we have a full say by the development team or the other folks as well, because they are the one who will be delivering this. I call it a vision to a value. They are the builders, right? So builders also have to let us know that okay, this needs to be get it done first in order to, so they can also help and these are all the discussions that we usually have it during the quick planning session. Again, some of the myths are there. Planning session is not a requirement gathering, okay? And I have seen this very common, that people get stuck into a requirement, how we will do this story. No, that's not the time. For that particular reason, you have another meeting, which we call it refinement, or we call it sometime grooming. Grooming is not a good word to be used in European countries, so that's why I use it all the time, refinement. So refinement is a time when you have to start thinking about it, okay, how we will be working on these ones. But anyway, coming back to the sprint planning session. So as a Scrum Master, I want to make sure that my priority is that I will be delivering these 3, 4, 5 things related to the health. So I want to make sure that all my stories from the functional point of view or the integration point of view or the technical point of view are there. Okay. Now, once I have that everything there, again, you don't assign the stories. Another bad practice is usually we say, okay, I will assign the stories, or product owner will assign the stories. No, we want to have these pool of stories being available, and developers has to pick up those stories by themselves, what exactly they will be working on it. When they pick up the stories, or they start make themselves an accountable for that story. I mean, there are two terms I usually use. You want to commit the story, or you want to be consulted for the story. When you commit the story, it means you are the one who is responsible for delivering that one. When you are committing the story, guys, you have to make sure that your capacity is there. Team capacity is there. If you don't have a capacity, if you are going on a PTO tomorrow, why you will be picking up the story today, which you think you will not be able to get it done tomorrow or day after tomorrow, and you think you'll be not available for the rest of the whole 2 weeks. So you have to be honest with yourself too. Hey, you know what? I can work on this particular subtask, which XYZ Scott is working on it. I can work on this small part of it. So the point is that you have to keep that balance of it. And as a Scrum Master, you have to also be watchful on that. If somebody is committing 3 or 5 stories, and you know the guy has only 10% of availability, you can ask a question, educated question. Hey, by the way, just wanted to make sure, if you are committing these 3 stories, that looks like will be a 2 weeks of a time required on on a daily basis, 3 or 4 hours. So do you think, like, but you said like you will be 10% available, so you'll be able to get it done? because you want to pinpoint, or not a pinpoint, you want to highlight the outliers, because people are sometimes overcommitting, and sometimes they're kind of afraid of taking things, and sometimes they start taking so many things they don't have any idea what they are doing it. And you probably will have to actually, as a scrum master, offline help them to understand it, what they are committing for, and what they should be actually doing it. So that's an education part, that's an as a coaching part, that you will be helping them out. You will only help them if you do understand what I'm talking right now, that what is the direct dependencies, or what is the directly proportional to, based on their available capacity, and what exactly they are committing for it. Okay, coming back to that one, user stories, as I said, there are multiple kind of it. And then there are spikes. You might have heard of this one. We have a technical debt, we have a bugs. These are kind of other things that you will probably see in the JIRA usually don't call anything as a user story. JIRA is known as calling everything as an issues. They call it out everything as a issue. That issue, how the issue is how the issues everything is issue to them, like it's a bug, it's a spike, it's a user story for them, so they call it as a. What is a spike? Just a quick 1 minute thing. So the spike thing is that if something the team don't know, but they want to use that one, and they say, you know what, we don't know what will be the outcome of it, but we need to have a spike to understand it, because that is more valuable to within the team. Okay, that might not have a business value to the end user, but that might have a value to the team, so the team can make the decisions accordingly. Oh, we would like to use HTML5 for this one, but before I go and do this one, I need to have a 2 days of a worth of a time, or at least 6 more hours or 8 more hours to test this thing, to figure it out, that if it is worth to use this health related pop-up screen or not. So they call that, as a developer themselves, that it's a spike. Spike has a value to the team, within the development team, but it might not have a value to the business. It has an indirect value to the business, because we will help them in understanding how this technology will be helpful for them or not. Okay, so having said that one, we are coming back to the JIRA updates. So what I'm saying is, once I'm done with the planning, we will be having some activities. Mostly Scrum Masters, usually I have seen, are taking that responsibility. They try to go back into the JIRA, they try to push all the stories, they make sure all the stories are assigned to the folks. They picked up story, the story points are assigned, their subtasks are already there. Don't make too many subtasks. I have seen some of the organizations that where people put, like, in a one story 25 subtask. No. And you guys are familiar with Fibonacci number, so I'm not going to go into that one. You can learn a lot about that one. But if it's a team is in the beginning stage and it's a bit difficult for them to understand it, just some standard version that I practiced and I see value of it. Like, you just tell them, start using 3, 5, and 8 pointer, but everything should be delivered within the same sprint. And when I'm saying delivered in the same sprint, don't forget about definition of done and definition of ready, and also make sure that their capacity is available before they go and make this commitment. Now, once we are done with this JIRA updates and everything, the next, okay, and these are some of the, sorry, okay, I'll take you this one. Okay, user story in a current sprint. Now I'm saying that we are done with the stories, we have epics defined, we have the stories available in our backlog, we know what we will be doing in the next this is the overall thing. So I'm saying, okay, probably we are just focused on landing page and login screen. These are the two major things as a goal that we will be achieving in our next sprint, but we will be building all these components, subcomponents of those ones. Okay, now once we reach to that point, now let me get you through the actual execution of the sprint. Now, when we are saying actual execution of the sprint, what does that involve in it? That does involve the most important thing. We call it as a daily stand-up, right? Daily stand-up is an activity where we stand up for a 15-minute and we say what I have done yesterday, what I will be doing today, any impediments, any issues. So some of the myths are there that mostly some of the organization, even I did that one, that sometime I have to, push the people and say, hey, by the way, David, could you like to go and let us know what's the update? Hey, Dean, you tell me. Hey, Ali, you tell me what's going on. Hey, Alicia, you want to share your thoughts. But Actually, that's not the case, right? I mean, we wanted to have a stand up, like where people are standing up for a 15-minute and they say, oh, you know what, guys, like a friends, like we are talking as a friend, and say, by the way, I was working on story, CD 325, and I figured it out, like these are the these are the areas where we would like to, I'm working on it, I'll be get it done, and then all of a sudden I heard I have a issue with the environment or this, but I know what to do with it. I already raised a change control for that one, so I think I'll be okay with that one. Or they says, oh, you know what, I think I have a dependency, I have an external dependency while getting a login screen to log in. I think while doing my unit testing, I figured it out that Active Directory through which my organization has to give me an access, I don't have an access to that one. So I have to, raise a snow ticket for that one, or a ServiceNow ticket for that one. So this is an impediment. Unfortunately, we know that's an impediment and the guy already has the plan for it. But sometimes there are an impediment. The person is saying, okay, you know what, I need some more details from the product owner, and the product owner is not there. What should I have to do? So we have to, so these are some of the impediments are at the team level, some of the impediments at the individual level. So we have to think through that one, and we have to make the educated decisions at that point and assign things accordingly. Okay, but we try to resolve the impediments for before the next stand up. Might be we have a different question, different scenarios. What if this happened? What if that happened? I totally understand. These are all the things, and that's why you guys are there, right? That's why the Scrum Masters are there to help them out. If everything goes smooth, automated, then what's the purpose of you? You as a facilitator, as a team facilitator, or as a servant leader, have to act upon it. Anyway, usually I do one practice. I try to pull in that board, and I try to encourage the team to talk about that stand up, and they talk about their stories, their subtask, and all that one. And then they also move their stories accordingly, their tasks accordingly. If the things are in to do, to in progress, to done, so they push things accordingly, right? From to do to in progress to done, or in prog. So they keep doing that one. Impediments, as we talked about it, we can document the impediments, but usually I don't document the impediments. Honestly, it is more of a daily team thing. So we have to start assigning in a sense. We want to make people let the others know about the impediments, but also try to take some leadership on that one in solving that one. Okay. Then we have a burn down charts. You all know every single day when you're working on it, you are making some progress, usually in JIRA or any other tools. If you log your hours or your progress, then those progress will help you, the management, to see some of the burn down charts, that what was the effort committed, what was the effort spent on it, and then how the chart looks like. Okay. Mostly, I mean, people are very easy on that one. Now, the sprint demo, or we call it inspect and adopt. This inspect and adopt is from the SAFe 4.5. I have seen like mostly, but it doesn't matter. Demo, inspect and adopt, what exactly does that mean? It means that what we will be actually coming together at the end of the sprint, what actually at the end of the sprint, what we have committed for delivering a medical and health concept. And we said, okay, we are committing this one, and at the end of 2 weeks, we should be able to display what is being built and developed for the team. So that is a critical thing. Again, one of the wrong misconception, or whatever you call it out, is that I have seen a lot of people take that demo session as a way to express their thoughts, their thinking. Business comes in and, fully charged, and they think this is a refinement session. Oh, by the way, I thought this one, I wish this should be like that one. As a Scrum Master, we have to facilitate. We have to set the stage accordingly. We have to set the expectation and tell them, guys, this is a demo session. We will be having another session for our refinement and all that. Demo does mean, sprint review does mean, inspect and adopt does mean only one. What was being committed, what is being going to delivered. Yes, there could be an observations. There could be a thought process that we will take it as an input, and we will go back to our user stories, or either should have to go back into the backlog. So our product owner should come back and reprioritize it, and because I have seen a lot of big folks come into these demos and they start making a lot of fancy things and start talking, and kind of I'm sorry to say, but they have to show you that they got all the knowledge, information, understanding. Absolutely, I mean, full respect to them. I'm not saying that one, but we have to, because we are on a time crunch. We wanted to commit something and then we wanted to deliver something. It's between commitment and a delivery. Once we are done with that one and took the observation, then we have a next thing which is called as a sprint retrospective. And before I go and jump on that one, I would like to take a pause. And I see there's a lot of questions probably coming up. So, or anybody wants to add something, guys, this is not a session like, I'm the ultimate. There are a lot of other folks on this call. Anybody has any thoughts that we would like to clarify, please feel free to jump on the call. Let me open the forum for a few minutes so people can talk a little bit. And if you have any language barrier, feel free, okay? Talk in Urdu, Pashto, Punjabi, whatever, we don't care. We want you to understand the things. Khurram, is that okay if we can open the forum for a few minutes?
Absolutely. This is the reason we would appreciate more interaction. So, Farooq, we also have some questions on the idea boards. If you want to show that up, that is also possible.
Perfect. Absolutely. That's good.
So as Farooq said, he can also speak Pashto, he can also speak Urdu, and he's already speaking in English. So let's be frank. The main purpose is to get knowledge, whatever medium we use. So over to you guys.
Hello guys, this is Zishan. First of all, thanks to Farooq and thanks to all of you. So I have a small suggestion. So as you mentioned about the language barriers, so because this is for the Pakistani guys, so this is just my humble opinion. It's up to you guys to decide whatever you want. So is it possible that the all session and all the future session is in Urdu language? So the peoples who do not have any hesitation to ask a question. Personally, I don't have any problem, but it's up to you guys.
Wonderful.
So that is kind of administration. I can share that very quickly. Usually we as from PASE, we don't have any restriction. We usually check with speakers if whatever language medium they want to use. So if we have been using sessions in mixed language, that is a good suggestion. Thank you very much, Zishan. However, let's focus on the session right now and continue asking questions to Farooq. Let's make best use of his time.
Thank you.
Okay, let me quickly, I think I touched upon the testing thing. Let me go for this one. Please mention all tools icon on the current screen. Absolutely, I love to, and I will come back to it and I'll show you with the screen. Is a Scrum sprint dependent on team size? If yes, what should be sprint length ratio to team members that you recommend? Okay, that's a kind of a tricky question, but my friend, the thing is that no, sprint does not depend on the team size. Usually we have a team size 5 to 7, as I said, bookish thing, which is always recommended. But practical world, I have seen all kind of teams. I have seen 15 member in the team. I have seen 3 member in the team. I have seen 20 members in the team. So it all depends on it. It depends on it what exactly you are delivering in the sprint, right? Bodies doesn't matter. I mean, it depends on it what skill set you have it. And plus one more thing that you need to clarify is that don't compare team to team. Okay, 2 teams can have a different sort of skill set. They have a totally different kind of understanding, knowledge base. It all depends on it. So answer to your question, no, it depends on it what you are committing for the sprint. And if you have a bigger size of a team, definitely you can deliver more, right? But if you have a smaller size of a team, you will deliver less. Tools, I will mention the tool, definitely. I have that's the reason I put it. Most of the tools I have used is JIRA and Confluence. Power Apps is another thing that I'm using it, but I will talk about that one at the end if time permits, just to give some creativity from my own mind point of view. Also, guys, because this is a great session and I have seen a lot of good folks, I would also like to say if Ahmed brother is also there, because he has some few questions that I got on my mobile, I was not able to answer that one. Brother Ahmed, please feel free to jump in, add your comments, add your suggestions, because we know you are a very expert person in this area. So we would like to hear from you as well. If you are there, please.
Yeah, it would have been really good to hear from Amir. I think he had a meeting and he had to leave during the session.
Okay. Yeah, he was sending me some messages. Unfortunately, I was not able to. Okay, that's fine.
No, let's try to get in touch with Amir for another session. So let's hopefully.
Perfect. Okay. Often POs insist on doing backlog grooming just before sprint planning. Backlog grooming followed by sprint planning. What do you say about? Okay. Oh, here you go. Questions are coming. So insist on doing backlog grooming just before sprint planning. So see, this is what approach I can recommend is, and that is my recommendation. There could be other ways to handle it. Is that always do a proper refinement session, build a session within this before the sprint. I mean, if you're going for a sprint 2, within a sprint 1, at least have to have 2 sessions identified where you insist and you have to come back with a proper sort of an agenda to them that, hey, this session is specifically for grooming for the next upcoming sprint. Plus, I call it out as a story time. Like here we have a story time for our kids in libraries and all that one. I call it out even in my team's story time. Story time is where the BAs and the product owner get together. They explain the stories to the rest of the teams so they know what is upcoming for them. So that's the approach, I would say. How do you deal with the team who is stubborn to change? Oh my gosh, that's a common thing. Or follow your Scrum practice. Okay, so that's a very common problem, my friend. That's why I call it out. Scrum masters or the facilitators are more of a thick skins. They try to kind of mingle with them, try to show them the value of it, but there's no direct, straightforward answer to that. Okay, there's a techniques that you have to use it. You have to mingle with them, you have to understand with them, and then if it is getting out of your control, it depends on a different cultures, guys. That's another important thing, because I'm dealing with my own homeland based area, so that's a different culture over there to tackle it. Over here is a different culture in United States, so I deal with it accordingly, so you deal with it accordingly. How to estimate story, because mostly every story has at least 2 tasks, development and testing. Should it be only one story with estimation? Like, yes. Okay, let me take you to the whole bunch of a complete. Can you guys see my screen, by the way?
Yes, it's good.
Perfect. So again, as I said, I'm a very I'll take you on the quick journey of it. So it depends on it, what your story look like, what your so story estimation. Yes, the point is very good. You said every story is a development. No, every story is a 3 things: development, unit testing, and testing. Some of the teams which are up to the second maturity level and they have an automation tools and they are doing some automation involved in it, that's also a component of it. So when you do the estimation, a 0.3, 5, 8 or 13, whatever the point you are marking it out, that should require a complete understanding of every 3 components of it. And while I'm explaining it, when we go for a story, let me show you guys. Okay, sorry. Oh, here's a poker planning. I mean, planning poker, we call it whatever you call it. So in that one, it's a Fibonacci number, right? And that's Fibonacci. All the 3 folks are involved in it before we make this this estimation, and we have to pinpoint who are the outliers. One person is saying it's a 3-pointer, and another person is saying 13-pointer. So you know what? There is something is wrong in it. So we have to get them together. So story estimation in itself is a complete science, but yes, everything involves in it. Okay, when we say it's a 5-pointer, it does mean that it includes everything. How to estimate story, because mostly every story has at least, and by the way, again coming back to the point, अगर किसी को उर्दू में बात करनी है तो let me know, मैं उर्दू में भी जवाब दे सकता हूँ. I mean, कोई ऐसा बड़ा issue नहीं है. By the way, just on a side note, I love Urdu. उर्दू में बहुत जना मजा आता है बात करने में. So how to estimate story, because mostly every story has at least 2 tasks, development and testing. Okay, that's I think I already talked about it. Every team member commits for story tasks in each story by themselves. Can you please? No, that's exactly what I was talking about. Everybody is not committing. It is mostly the development and the testing team. They are the one, because I don't want to use that word. They call it, like I call it as a committed. Who's committing those stories? So actually they are the one who are responsible for development, test, unit testing and testing. So they are the one who are responsible. BS will not be committing it. Scrum Master will not be committing it or will be participating in this activity. How do you prove to the management that you are an effective Scrum Master, whereas the team is not in favor as such? Okay, so Samir, this is you don't have to prove. Your work will prove that you are an effective Scrum Master. Plus, the ultimate goal is we are not here for the titles. We are the leaders, right? But what kind of a leader? We are a servant leader. What kind of a servant leader? A person who has an understanding, knows what to get it done before and after, and then try to start implementing those things. You cannot force the things, and you have to start taking the credits of an effective Scrum Master. That's a project management stuff, and that's where we are trying to be away from it. And I dealt with every single kind of a team that you can think of it. And it's not like all the time I'm the only one who was successful. There are some failures too. Sometimes, there's a lot of pushback, but it depends on it, culture, environment, and all those things. Okay. I'm trying to just squeeze in all the questions, but still I'll be available for any other further discussions for you guys. Coming back to the question, this one about the tools. So guys, this tool is a JIRA, and this is a Confluence, and mostly you will see all these tools available. This is another tool which I am using for my own personal creativity point of view. I call it as a Power Apps. So I use this Power Apps for building some of the cool stuff as an apps for my team to start delivering, or to start planning and providing their capacity by using their phones in the form of an app. But it has nothing to do with this one. I just wanted to share some flavors of it, because all the time you have to be a little bit more innovative. You have to be ahead of technology, or try to learn, or it could be your own personality. I'm not saying it's required, but it is always useful when you show a cool way of doing things. Can we go to the next, guys? Okay, we are almost very close to it, guys. So as we said, sprint retrospective. I'm coming back to the point of a sprint retrospective. So sprint retrospective is actually an activity where all the teams should be encouraged to talk about their own issue. It's a place where you wash your own laundry. I mean, it's a kind of an activity. You don't have to include the product owners in this particular session. Definitely don't include them. Don't include any management folks into it, because then that will kind of not give an opportunity for the team to speak up. And we want to encourage them to start speaking up. What they have to speak up, first of all, there's always a scientific reason behind all these activities. Don't take it that these are just a bunch of activities that the folks has just put together. Honestly, that's not the case. If you go in deep into it, you will try to start understanding there's a psychology, a concept involved in it. There's a scientific reasons behind it involved in it. When you do this estimation, there's a complete science and a psychology involved in it, that why we do this activity, why we try to highlight the outliers, why we take the story pointer 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. What is different between 1 and 2? 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. 8 plus 5 is equal to 13. You see, so there's a reason behind it. Then on top of it, when we have this activity, this team collaboration happening, we try to encourage to have an answer and questions to each other, not by the Scrum Master or the product owner mostly, but mostly by the teams. So encourage them to talk to each other, encourage them to ask questions to each other, encourage them to challenge each other, encourage them to have that discipline of taking some responsibility and get it done. Now, sprint retrospective, the first thing is always went well. There's thousands of ways to run this retrospective. Okay, there are a lot of other tools to be involved in it. And just to show you quickly how many tools or possible ways we can, I'll show you. Let me show you the execution. It's a little bit. If you go to the, okay, you can see how many games we have built so far. Can you see how many multiple ways you can do that one? How many ways you can run the retrospective? But again, that's why I'm saying the more innovative, the more productive you are, the more effective you will be. Like one of the questions was by Samir, if you just keep following the same everyday kind of a labor kind of a work, you will get bored, your team will get bored, because eventually you have to repeat the whole cycle again and again. So in order to be more effective, you have to utilize some of these fun activities along with it. And so I have documented all these ones. Now coming back to this point now, I always start with the went well. I try to encourage each other. And again, one of the myths is like retrospective is a blame game. No, guys, it's not a blame game. It is a way to actually present the things on a positive note. Let me switch to change the things. मुझे शायरी बहुत अच्छी लगती है. वो कहते सबाहतों में भी कुछ कबाहतें थी. सवाल खुद ही उठाते रहे, जवाब नहीं. So the point is that we are not trying to build the question from the question or blame game. We are trying to encourage, oh, you know what, by the way, Samir, you were doing this good thing while testing. Hey, Scott, man, I really appreciate the thing that you done for us for the change management. Hey, Alishba, I'm really happy for the refinement of the things that I was really looking for it, and you have provided that related document, reference document, that helped me a lot. So that way, we wanted to encourage them to say the good things about each other, because that builds the confidence. Because see, what need to stop and what need to improve? Need to improve is the area where things get sensitive, right? So you want to start this with a positive note. When things are started with a positive note, it is easy to absorb a positive, not a criticism, but a self refinement, I would call it out. So this is a very productive activity, but it depends on each and every Scrum Master, that how that Scrum Master actually envision this one and how they make this thing more effective and productive. Okay, the more effective, the more productive you can do it, you will be able to get more things, get it done through your team. Okay, so first thing is went well. Sticky notes are there. They put the sticky notes. You just try to go back and encourage them to. And again, I use another tool for that one. Probably you might always, you all are using it, but this is one of the ideas board, right? We can all see that one. If I'll take you to the, okay, give me 1 second. Oh, this one. Let me make a duplicate of this one, so I don't want to lose this thing. Okay, coming back to this one. If I, okay, let's see if they can log me in. Because we said it's a practical, so I'll try it. Okay, see how many practicals. So please, just one of the iteration retrospective. I use the retrospective. So in that way, everybody, if for the distributed team or anybody who's somewhere else, all across the world, or actually don't want to show up that who has wrote what sticky note, because sometimes people say, तूने ये sticky मेरे लिए लिखी थी, मुझे पता है बच्चू, मैं तेरे साथ बाद में देखूंगा. Nothing like that one, yaar. It is more of, you just want to make it more anonymous, like, okay, nobody knows what's happening. But can you see this one? And you see what went well, what didn't went. This is an actual retrospective, by the way, for one of my team that I did. So I use this tool. And the more you will see, if I show you 5, 6, 7, you will see the things were getting improved on this area, getting improved on this area, and getting lower down on this, because now they know what needs to be improved on within the team level. Okay. So coming back to, okay. So this is all we have from the retrospective point of view. And not everything, or last point, okay, in retrospective, you just have to go back and pinpoint how many things needs to be improved. Then you have to make sure that you pick up 1 or 2 things out of it. Not every single, because every single time people will come with a lot of complaints, with a lot of things, right? And say, okay, this is not right, this is not right, he's not good, he's bad, especially in the beginning. Okay, in the beginning of the sprints, first, second, third sprint, you will see this culture of it. But with the timelines, you will see that will start decreasing if you start paying attention to it. If there are things which are being highlighted, okay, you know what, this particular 2 things are the top priority things. Let's take this one and fix it. What is that? For example, if this says, okay, from moving a code from a dev environment to a test environment is a pain. Okay, and we want to have some tools available for this thing. Okay, achhi baat hai yaar, that's good to know, but bhai, I don't have a budget for that one. I mean, I can pass it on this along to my management, but management doesn't have the budget or whatever. That approval process takes a long time. But I'm saying, you know what, it's on the target. We'll work on it. And once it is, when you go for the next retrospective, you make sure If that is resolved, show them this is what you have identified last time, and this time it got resolved. Or even if it is not resolved, it is work in progress, show them, share with them. Don't hide it, because Scrum is more of a transparent platform where we share the things with each other. Okay, then coming to the bi-weekly, monthly metrics reports, these are always, every management wants to have these reports. Make it more fancy. JIRA can provide you a lot of reports which you can use it. You can build your own reports. I have a lot of my own ways to share my reports and all that one. Now, this is the whole cycle, practical cycle of it. But you know what? Don't go away. We are still in the process of development. So let me do a fast forward. And now I assume that all of you have an understanding about a sprint, that there are three major things that we are working. We have a retrospective, we have a demo, and we have a product available. I mean, at the end of every sprint, we have some product. Then we went into another sprint, we have another product. I mean, same product has an iteration, development, upgrade. We went to another sprint and we had a product. Okay, good. Now, think through this one. I want everybody to be really focused for last 2 minutes, okay? This is a clock which will take you into the future, okay? We are all done with the sprint 1. Sip of water, thank you. We are done with the sprint 1, or we are, so I'll take you to the whole journey again. Don't forget, I'm a one-page guy. I always try to squeeze things into a one page. It takes a lot, but I mean, it's always fun. Now, guys, when I'm in a release cycle, how the release cycle works, let me show you. Okay, we have started a sprint 1. We had 3 major activities: planning, demo, retrospective, 2 weeks. Wonderful. Okay, time going fast, right? So we are in a sprint 2. Now we did the same thing. 2 weeks done. Wow. Again, now we are in a sprint 3 release, sprint 3, right? 2 weeks done, and I'm almost halfway through my release. Now, see, similar pattern for the 4th sprint, then the 5th sprint, and we are in the last sprint. There's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of activity happening. Again, coming back to the real life, as I told you in the beginning, we will be delivering a product end of the release in production, but all the rest of the components based on the whatever the 5th sprint we are into, it is already available in our lower environments. When I'm saying lower environment, in our dev environment, in our test environment, in our UAT environment. But probably last sprint, 6th sprint, is the sprint where we want to just make sure functional testing is done, performance testing is done, code looks good, everything, all the other test cases are being ran, everything looks perfect. All right, there's some observation, team is good, management is fine, change control is in place, production support team is in place to make sure, and we have done all these activities in our last sprint. We are not developing anything. Code freeze has had happened in sprint 5 and sprint 6. We will be doing everything what we have achieved in these 5 sprints, right? Okay, let me hit the wonderful. Last sprint, we did all the other activities, which might not be involving all the development. But as I said, I just explained it to you. Production support activity, this activity. If you are in a financial sector, you might have to meet with a lot of other, compliant areas that you have to make sure those are there. Healthcare has their own ways to standardize things. You want to make sure that all these things are being taken care. And guess what? We have started our journey with the software, which was a medical software, and you all will be excited to see what is the outcome. Let me press the button. Are you all ready? Here you go. You have a software available which can be accessible through your web browser and also available on your Android and iOS phone. How cool is that, guys? Come on. Is that good? Did we saw the whole journey of a product development and the sub activities involved in this product development, and then how we reach to the end result of a product? So that's where, and this is the end of, I think okay, this is the end of my journey. I try to squeeze in probably 2 hours, not 2 hours, 1 hour and 40 minutes probably, but this is some sort of a high level understanding of building it for everything. and these are all the companies. I mean, you might not be interested, you don't have to. These are the companies that I worked for in the last 10, 12 years. Okay, let me take a pause. Let me say thank you to all of you for listening, and thank you to the team for arranging all this one. Please feel free to let me know, open the questions, any comments, any suggestions, please.
Great. Farooq, do you think we should check the idea board if we have not answered any question? Perhaps this might be a good
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely. Good. Absolutely. Thank you. Let's go back to the idea board, and here is the idea board. Okay, we were answering last. Okay, two questions are there. So Scrum Master is a project manager. Are they both don't exist together? No, Scrum Master is not a project manager. I mean, I don't think so. You picked up the right thing. Project manager is a facilitator who facilitates, bring the fun, bring the facilitation, but at the same time is helping the team to remove the obstacles as a part of the team. Project managers are usually the one who says, okay, what exactly you will be doing? You have to do this one. You have to do this one. Give me the progress. How much task is done? We are not doing that one as a Scrum Master. We are trying to be a part of the team, and we are trying to help them out. So absolutely, the Scrum Master is not a project manager. What about Fibonacci stuff? Did not got the point. Okay, so this is a good point. So Fibonacci is the, let me try to explain it with an example. When we say Fibonacci, when we go for a story, let me take you to the actual fun part of it. If we go for a planning poker activity, during that planning poker activity, when we have a stories available, and we say, okay, we want to gauge what that story. Okay, let me take you to this one, and let me take you to the example. Okay, you know what, right here. If I'll take you to the complex stories. Okay, here is the story number 1, and here is the story number 2. Okay, this is the priority 1, this is the priority 2. Just to give you an example, this story login screen has a username and password, that's all. And this story has a register new user where we have 4 fields to fill in, then submit the button, just trying to give you a number. So I think as a senior developer, I think I can build the login page with the username and password and building 2 page. This will take me about a day worth of time, or so I'll say, what baseline is that this could be a day worth of a time of work for me if I'm available for 6 hours on a daily basis. So I would say this is easy to me. But as a developer, I know it is easy for me. Let me ask my testing team. And testing team is saying, you know what, it's easy for you to build. For me to test it, I want to make sure the test should be against the Active Directory of an organization. We want to make sure when you hit the enter button, that enter button should go and check you against the Active Directory and get back to you, to us. What if it fails? If it don't find it, what should be the page? Now you see how the both. So it is easy for the development team in saying it will be a 3-pointer, but testing team is saying no, it's a 5-pointer. And all of a sudden our architect team is saying, you know what, even it is not a 3-pointer, is a 13-pointer, because we have to do some special, we have to wait for a special web service which is being in place. I'm just trying to make it more complex for a real-time scenario. Now in this discussion, we have to see what is the acceptance criteria for that story. Now the product owner says, you know what guys, I don't want to get into that much detail. As far as my product is available, I want to make sure that login screen is there. Somebody has to enter some data into it. And when they press on OK, they always have take them always to the landing page. That's it right now. Okay, that's easy. Now testing team is saying, you know what, I'll take it back. I'm okay with 3-pointer. Architect team is saying, okay, if you want to do that hard coded, I'm done. I have no problem. So all of a sudden that 13 and 5 become 3 or 5, whatever that they make sure. Okay, that's the way we do the planning, or we do the estimation. Well, this thing, although is a story which has a 4 fields, and upon those 4 fields there are some field level validation. There's a page level validation that needs to be happen. So they're saying this in itself is not a small task. It will probably take 2 days worth of a time. So it will probably 12 hours, 16 hours. And testing team is saying, okay, just to make sure that during the refinement they figure it out that again this does belong to the same thing, that we have some assumption that this is how the story should be working on it. So this could be a 5-pointer. So Fibonacci is when we say 3 to when it is not a 3, it's a bigger than this one, right? This story is bigger than this one. So if this is a 3-pointer, we are saying this could be a 5-pointer or could be a 8-pointer. So there's a whole bunch of an activity that is involved in it. I mean, how to do the estimation. Estimation in itself is a number of ways of doing it. Sometimes it's a Fibonacci, sometimes it's a simple relative reference. Okay, if story is bigger than this or that t-shirt size, we usually call it that. Okay, if it is a t-shirt size, it's a mug size or whatever that or those things are. So it does have a lot of more details, but I don't want to make it confused, but just to as an overall, to give you a kind of an overall idea that how things work from the story point of view. That's what the Fibonacci number is. And the scientific reason is anything that is taking 1 to 1.5% of the previous thing, that's why it's 3 to 5, 5 to 8. That's why 3 plus 5 is equal to 8. 8 plus 5 is equal to 13. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. So that's the scientific reason behind. I think I tried to help you out, but if not, we can talk more. How do you make the...
Yeah, perhaps we can take one last question because otherwise we'll run over the time. So Farooq, let's take the last one and then we can wrap up.
Okay, how do you make the games? I mean, it's a job to involve a game plan into an epic. No, I think Samir, you picked it wrong. There is no game plan into the epic. I'm sorry, I'm not able to understand what. But as an overall, how you make the games? There are online games available. There are games you can, based on your team education and understanding, you can build together. Okay, so that's what you have to do it. Okay, I think that's very much. So looks like that you guys don't want anything in the future. You guys don't want what went well. But feel free to add your comments. What went well, guys? I told you went well is a very powerful thing for any speaker, not for me, but any speaker, to see that how much time and effort they have put together is that was really worth it. तो भाई अपना input देना जरूर की कोशिश कीजिए. Input से जो है वो एक कोई भी प्रेजेंटर जो होता है या कोई भी पर्सन होता है उसके लिए अच्छा उसको फील होता है कि उसने वाकई इन द राइट डायरेक्शन काम कर रहा है या नहीं कर रहा. ओके, थैंक यू.
Okay, perhaps we could have been better at explaining that. We have been explaining to put the questions on the idea boards, not the other things. But apart from that, Farooq, a very good job. It has been a lot to learn for me even, and I hope all our participants got something new to learn, to take away and implement in their work life on the journey wherever they are right now. But we are not done yet in a way. I have shared a Slack link to our Slack group, Agile People Pakistan and PASE. Please join that, and we can continue discussion there as well. Farooq is already there and always helping people to share his insight as well. Yeah, I mean, a lot of good comments, Farooq, presentation, explanation, and helping answer question. I think this is the one of the session where we have received most question that you helped answer. Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Once again, Farooq, thank you very much for participating. We have recorded this session and we will upload it on our social media and share the link afterward as well. So having said that, have a nice and wonderful weekend. And I think it's a morning starting for you, Farooq, there in Chicago.
Yes, it is, guys. And thank you so much. Give me just 1 minute to let everybody know about it, guys. This was just an effort to help you out. I'm not saying I'm 100% right or wrong. There's no right and wrong answers and questions. There is always a journey for all of us to learn from each other and actually start putting things in the real time. Please try to start implementing things in your real projects. And if you face any problems or issue, let us know. One of us will be able to help you out and start sharing, because sharing is caring. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Very nice word. And all this effort that we're putting in PASE is to build a community of practice promoting Agile and Scrum and any other methodologies that can help improve your work life. So having said that, thank you very much, and see you in our next session. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.